So I think it's a fascinating question, and we've asked ourselves this very same question, and we haven't had the chance to address it yet. But I think it would be really interesting, and I know that in other medical conditions, people have looked into it. We
Okay.
know that breastfeeding is a very good, uh, I would say, protective factor against several diseases, including diabetes and others, and obesity and other conditions. We don't really know about the association with chronic pain, but I wouldn't be really surprised if the dysbiosis that is caused or the different composition of the gut microbiome that is brought about by different diets early in life would have this effect, but this is definitely something that has to be looked into because it hasn't been studied as far as I know.
Right.
It's really interesting, and
I think it's interesting too.
I agree. And I told you we were just making our very first path
Hmm.
in this way, and we don't know much more than we do know. So
Yes.
we just will have to be patient about that. But we have completed a study in Montreal now in McGill, in which we tried different dietary approaches
Okay.
in women with fibromyalgia because we wanted to see, different patients tell us that different diets help them.
Hmm.
And a diet that is really helpful for one individual can be really not helpful and even detrimental to another.
Sure.
So we were really interested, how can that be? Um, we're still analyzing the results, but we saw that, for example, people on women with fibromyalgia on low FODMAP diet.
Hmm.
Maybe you've heard about that. It's a
Yes.
diet that is often used for irritable bowel syndrome.
Hmm.
So, and there have been a few reports about its efficacy in fibromyalgia. So we said what we thought, why not try that? So we sampled the microbiome of a large cohort of women with fibromyalgia. We started them on the diet, and
Hmm.
sure enough, some of them responded very well to the diet, while others did not. And
Interesting.
what we are trying to find out now is whether the baseline microbiome can predict who will respond and who will not,
Wow.
because that may start to answer questions like the ones that you are asking,
Hmm.
and that is tailoring the individual treatment and the individual lifestyle measures that
Hmm.
can help individual patients, because maybe what's good for you is not good for me, vice versa.
Yes. And we all
So
have different blood types and different lifestyles, and there's a lot of factor in genetics. I'm sure you have to play a role. You know, um, I think that for me, and again, this is for me, I have taken the kind of like pre-diabetic approach, and I started to eat my food in a specific order. Now, I don't know how much time you spend in the US, but our diet here is horrible. And we have been taught this food pyramid, which I feel like is awful for me, and for many people. So um, I decided to eat fiber first, then healthy fat, then a protein, then the carbohydrate. And I have seen a significant reduction in pain because I'm allowing my body to process that food in a manner that is, I can use the protein for longer, and the carbohydrates will take longer to digest and give me energy for longer periods of time. I mean, again, this is all we have pretty much had to figure all this out on our own. And I have been, I would say the last 2 years, had a lot of additional health implications that I believe began a long time ago with the diagnosis of fibromyalgia. And I'm concerned about my organs, and my skin has changed greatly. 2 years ago, I did not look like this, and I've since had some other things that have happened that are pretty concerning. And so I'm not trying to necessarily reverse the damage that has been done to my body, but I'd like to prevent further damage if possible. So I do think that dietary changes, I went gluten-free a long time ago. I don't have dairy at all. And, you know, those two things in and of themselves, I found were very helpful. But there's also, um, when you have malabsorption problems and you try to take, and without a gallbladder, and you try to take things like vitamin D or fat soluble vitamins, then you can begin a whole other problem. And so people like myself have started to supplement on our own, and that can be very dangerous if you don't know enough. And I didn't know enough, and I believe I have harmed myself um, a little bit in the last 2 years trying to figure it out. And so I'm much more careful with how I approach this. And if I don't have the answer, I'm not going to take that supplement. If I don't have the answer, and I'm going to go way.
I think that you're right, and I think one of the difficult things about this the good question that you raise is that, well, there are so many variables, right? In math,
Yeah.
we're used to solving equations with one variable, two variables. Here we have countless,
Yes.
countless variables, and so many things that can affect the microbiome, right? Our diet, our the kind of activity that we do, how much we sleep, how much stress we're in, um, the quality of the air in where we live, the climate, so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are so many different configurations of the gut microbiome, and it's constantly changing and shaped
Yeah.
by the environment. And then eventually we don't know what would be good compositions of the gut microbiome and what would be bad compositions of the gut microbiome. I was trying to get an idea, but well, really, it's not like you can read a list of bacteria and say, well, this is a good microbiome.
Right.
And to add to this, we're not really sure how to, push a
Mm-hmm.
bad microbiome to be a good microbiome. So these are all questions that we need to be able to answer before we can give um, concrete advice to
Yeah.
people. It's really, I think it's dangerous. The medical community has been giving contradictory advice to patients for a
Yeah.
very long period of time. Eat fat, don't eat fat, eat carbohydrates.
Yeah. Eggs are bad. Eggs are good.
Exactly. So I think we need to be more careful than that. But and probably to add to this complexity, something that would be good for one person would not be good for another. So
Right.
we will probably have to tailor our recommendations personally.
Yes.
And this is going to be a challenge, but I think we are starting to address the challenge. And I personally believe that what you're doing is exactly the right way to go, because you're trying to reduce the uncertainty.
Mhm.
You're isolating the variables, and you're checking for yourself what's good for you and what's not good for
Right.
you.
And I'm doing this while I am in chronic fatigue and pain. So that is the worst part. And I know there are people in very much worse conditions than myself who wouldn't even be able to have this conversation on a very small scale because it's exhausting. And I think that I've been able to try to push myself, but I know that a lot of people cannot, and a time may come that I cannot. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue to fight for me and for everyone else. Um, and my Zoom says I need to upgrade if I want to go more than about 8 more minutes, and I don't want to keep you, but I would like to just ask if there's anything that the fibromyalgia community or the pain community could do to assist any of you. Would you guys consider in the future a large scale, I guess, interview with some type of database to put together for many women that have fibromyalgia who want to participate in a virtual trial, let's say, with a Q&A of, you know, when I was born, I was C-section or a vaginal birth. I did or did not nurse. And just kind of go through a little bit of information and collect that data. And, would you think that that could be potentially helpful?
I think it's a great idea, and theoretically, we could also combine that maybe with sending these women or these individuals kits to sample their microbiome.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, so this is definitely something that would be really interesting to do. We are all the time, short on budget, so we will need
Sure.
to raise some budget to do that. But if we can, so how many patients do you think would be interesting to participate?
Well, I would think as many as I could find. And I
Mm,
think they would be willing to pitch in. I'd be willing to spend a little bit. I don't have much money, but I'd be willing to spend a little bit if it was contributing to the greater good and the cause to find a solution for everyone.
mm.
I could find you a lot of women. And you know, if I can ever help with that, you have my contact information. I would love to help with that. And
Thank
I
you
think
so
they would
much.
love
I
that.
really appreciate it. I think that I told you one of the most important things that for which I'm doing this is to give people hope. So I think
Okay.
if you don't mind, maybe I'll ask you to distribute some information to
For
people
sure.
whenever we have some new results. Maybe we can update them. I think
Mhm.
that it can bring some optimism.
I
What
have
do
a
you say?
website that I just basically for the last 2 years have dumped my brain onto because, and I don't really do much with it. It's just there for me to produce my own, information. And I really don't even promote it much, but I do have a place that I could put it or a Substack or something like that. I could figure something out where I could let people go to one place, download the information, and then let them submit their information. I can help with that with anything that you think I could help with, I will do. I will
Right.
definitely.
So whenever we have news from the lab, I
Mhm.
can send them to you, and
Okay,
anything that you think may interest the other patients,
sure.
uh, that would be great.
Well, thank you for allowing me this time with you and also allowing me to help be an advocate for other people. And again, my heart is full because I think that you are an incredible human being and there's not enough people who are being incredible right now. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I was so happy to meet you, and
Me
let's
too.
keep in
Thank you.
touch.
All right. Well, you have a great evening. I know it's nighttime where you are. So thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
All right.
Be
Have a
well.
good one. Look forward to hearing from you. Bye bye.
Bye.